Travelers love Europe. The historical significance, the architecture, the food, the way of life. It's all very appealing and very romanticized. But there are many quirky and even shocking cultural differences that might catch you off guard. While you've been daydreaming about seeing castles or taking your gondola ride, you've possibly not prepared yourself for what you're about to experience. And as an American that's taken countless trips throughout Europe, here are 10 things that might shock you on your first visit. By the way, I know not everywhere in Europe is the same. Please don't send me angry comments. Number 1, hands down, the toilet. First, in many public places like train stations, you might have to pay to use the toilet. Now, it's not going to be outrageously expensive or anything, but if you really gotta go, don't forget you may need 50 cents or €1 on you to get in. There might also be a restroom attendant. Don't let that surprise you. Something very common you almost never see in the USA is 2 flush options. One is a little bit of water, and the other one is much, much more. Button number 1 and number 2, if you will. Speaking of number 2, something I was not prepared for the first time was the German poo shelf. Yeah, their toilets are a little bit different in Germany, and while this design is meant to eliminate splashing, just don't be surprised when you come face to face with your shit. Next, street names. Let's say you're on foot looking for your accommodations for the first time. Your host sent you check-in instructions and said, "We're on Kirkstraat." You get to what you think is Kirkstraat, but you're not positive, so you go to check the street sign. You know, the sign on the street that tells you the name of the street. Surprise, there isn't one. There actually is one, usually, and it's not far, but it's also not super obvious. In many places throughout Europe, there are parts of town where street names are actually on the sides of buildings. Not 100% of the time, but if you can't find a street name, look around at the buildings first. I'll be honest, this comes up more than you'd expect, even if you're using a GPS. Speaking of which, that is a perfect segue into today's video sponsor, Holafly eSIMs. Your phone is an integral part of the travel experience for things like Google Maps, looking at restaurant reviews, messaging your host, and staying connected with people back home. And when traveling, the last thing you want to do is waste your precious time hunting down Wi-Fi or having to pay ridiculous roaming charges with your home carrier. That's why I'm a big proponent of eSIMs, which allow you to switch to a local carrier without the hassle of changing your physical SIM card or accruing high costs from your home provider. My eSIM of choice is Holafly, which offers coverage in over 190 destinations worldwide with no roaming fees and unlimited data in 117 of them. Holafly makes it extremely easy to find a plan, and it's incredibly easy to install. You just scan a QR code, and after like 1 to 2 minutes, you've got the connection you need. Holafly's Europe plan comes with unlimited data for more than 30 countries throughout Europe, and now includes hotspots. If you're ready to get started with Holafly, head to the link below and use the code AWAYTOGETHER for 5% off your eSIM purchase. Big thanks to Holafly for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to that building you just located. Well, congratulations, you found your accommodations, and now to get to your apartment. Your host said it's on the first floor, number 117. You enter through the door on the ground level, you search everywhere for number 117, and nothing. What the heck? Well, in most of Europe and the UK, the ground floor and the first floor are not the same thing. The first floor is the first level above the ground floor. And by the way, don't be surprised if your building doesn't have an elevator. Elevators aren't uncommon by any means, but there are plenty of buildings with 4+ floors and no elevator. So here is one of the number 1 reasons we don't check bags when we come to Europe and why we recommend carrying on instead. This is the way to our Airbnb.
A few minutes later.
As you can see, I'm still climbing. Like when one of your handrails goes straight up, that's not usually a good sign. You know what else you should mentally prepare yourself for? Not having air conditioning at every moment of every day. This depends on where you're going, of course, and it can be a bit regional, but don't be surprised at all if your hotel or apartment or bed and breakfast doesn't have air conditioning. Now, if you're in Southern Europe where it gets blazing hot, this may not be as much of a problem, but in places like, let's say, Belgium, they may only need AC like a few weeks a year. And then is it even worth it to own an air conditioning unit. It's much more common to just leave your windows open at night. And their windows tend to be a little bit different to where you can open them or crack them and just kind of leave them cracked at night. I actually love those windows. Personally, I want them for my house. And this is another one of those kinds of things. If you know you need AC, just be conscious of that in the booking process. You can filter your Airbnb searches by whether or not they have AC. Something that surprises me is the number of people who watch this channel and aren't subscribed. If you're getting value out of this video or any of our videos, please hit that shiny subscribe button for more content like this. Know what else is shocking? Just how much better public transportation is throughout Europe. Seriously. In the US, everything is car, car, car. We drive everywhere. But throughout Europe, public transportation is often the way to go, especially in the tourist hotspots. In major cities like Paris, Vienna, Berlin, Amsterdam, the list goes on and on. You can grab a metro or a tram that'll get you almost anywhere you need to go. And they're usually quite punctual and extensive, which makes it easy to get around without a car. In cities like that, a car can actually be a hassle. And as a whole, Europe's rail network is incredible. High-speed trains can zip you across countries in no time. And personally, it's my favorite way to travel. First of all, because it's beautiful. The views out the window can be stunning. And it's easy. You don't have to deal with all the same nonsense you do when you fly, like getting there 2 hours early or all the security drama. You just show up, find your platform, and get on the train. Here's a tip for you. Don't forget to validate your tickets. In many places, you'll need to validate your ticket before boarding, and failing to do so can result in some serious fines. It looks a little bit different everywhere. Some places have apps that make this process easier, so just be sure to look into those before your trip. Another thing to look into before your trip, and I've seen this really upset some people, is what days things might be closed. In many countries, Sunday is truly treated as a day of rest. Most retail stores, supermarkets, and even some restaurants and cafes will be closed. It's not uncommon for smaller shops and boutiques to take the day off and give their employees a break. This can be shocking to a lot of travelers, especially coming from the USA when we can get groceries any day of the week, but it just is what it is. Now, personally, I love the idea of culturally honoring a true Sabbath and day of rest, if you will, but gosh, if you're a traveler in a small town and you just want to find a place to eat or you need some groceries, it can be surprising and honestly very frustrating. I remember once Allie and I went to a Spar in Vienna on Sunday. It was open, but there were certain items that could not be sold on Sundays. I think she just needed like shampoo or something, and that blew our minds. We could buy cheese, but we couldn't buy soap. Mondays can also be tricky. Many museums, galleries, historical sites choose Monday as their closing day, especially if they were open over the weekend. So, big tip with this is just to plan around these days. Make sure if you're really excited about a certain place and there's attractions or museums that you want to see there, double check the days those things are open and align your itinerary with ensuring you can enjoy them. Another quirky difference that can be bothersome to some travelers is paying for water at restaurants. In the US, when you ask for water, typically you get it for free, usually with a giant glass of ice. In many parts of Europe, it's not uncommon to be charged for water. Now, when you order, instead of just asking for water, ask for tap water, right? And perhaps even learn the way to say that in the local language. But there's still a chance the restaurant says, we don't serve tap water. And then you have to pay for a bottle. By the way, don't expect ice to be an automatic thing either. Restaurants often serve bottled water by default, and you might have to clarify whether you want still or sparkling. And yes, you'll be charged for it. This is just one of those cultural differences you need to be aware of. It's not a huge expense, but it's something you might not expect. Don't expect free refills. Don't expect massive size glasses. None of that. Something that might shock you in Europe is the prevalence of smoking and cigarettes everywhere. In many European countries, smoking is more socially accepted and prevalent than it is in the US. My wife jokes she has a certain smell that reminds her of Italy: cigarette smoke and cologne. There's smoking all over the place. Outdoor cafes, bars, they've got smoker lounges in the airport. You'll see cigarette vending machines. And this honestly won't impact your trip very much. It's not like it's unavoidable, but it can be a bit of a surprise if you're coming from a place where smoking is heavily restricted. I'm actually kind of proud of the USA on this one. Despite being the most obese of all the wealthy Western world, at least we largely stopped smoking cigarettes. Very interesting surprise for first-timers to Europe can be unexpected encounters with nudity. First day in Germany, I'm walking through a public park and I see a dude, probably 60, completely naked, like 100%. And I was thinking, is somebody going to arrest this guy? Turns out, not a big deal. Now, you're not going to see naked people everywhere. But at the beach, don't be surprised if you see someone topless. And in just about any spa or sauna, don't be surprised if you see absolutely everything. In fact, in any European spa Allie and I have visited, we felt like the odd ones out because we had our suits on. This one really varies by culture, but I think we in the USA largely associate nudity and the human body, unfortunately, with sex and sexuality. And in some places, that's just not how it is. People are a little more relaxed around these types of things. According to my research, this is sort of going out of fashion in some places, especially the topless sunbathing. So for the young man watching this, getting all excited, cool your jets, dude. If you do encounter public nudity, in my experience, much higher likelihood you see more grandmas and grandpas than you will people your age. Just saying. If you got a trip to Europe coming up and you want to know other things about cultural etiquette and cultural faux pas to avoid, check out this video here where I break down the 10 biggest tourist mistakes Americans make in Europe. Thanks so much for watching. Happy travels.